Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be checking out my January 2022 forecast. We'll be checking out some of the factors for this month and of course my forecast as well. And we'll also check out the cloud prediction center's forecast as well. So we're going to get started with the sea surface temperature anomalies, and there's a few noticeable things. One of those is that we still got that negative PDO going on in the Northern Pacific. And that kind of works against us. That's been one of the biggest factors during the month of December, and that's why the eastern U.S. was so warm. At least that's one of the reasons anyway. It's because of its negative PDO, and unfortunately it's still there. Another thing is that the La Nina is actually now at its peak, now, so it's at its current peak strength. So as if we kind of get closer to spring, it should back off some as we get closer to spring as well. It's also very warm in the Gulf of Mexico as well. If that holds tight, that would not be good news for hurricane season. We'll probably talk more about hurricane season when we get to spring. But overall, not a whole lot has changed pretty much with the sea surface temperature anomalies. Let's talk about the teleconnections. So this is the forecast for the Gfs Ensembles, and this is the NAO forecast. And we're expected to get to peak at a positive phase with the NAO, which will warm us up briefly in the eastern U.S. And where we had that winter storm across parts of the mid-Atlantic, we were briefly negative as well. So you don't necessarily need a very strong negative NAO to get a winter storm in the eastern U.S. Even sometimes, maybe even a positive NAO, you could still see a winter storm. Which, speaking of that, there might be potential for that later this week. That'll be for tomorrow's video, though. But anyway, the NAO forecast is expected to stay at least slightly positive. It's not terribly strong or anything, so it won't affect too much with the pattern. If you do check out the AO, it is going to be a little bit stronger. And as we do get towards a positive AO, that's going to help kind of keep the cold air a little further up north, a little bit more focused up into Canada. But there is some good news, and that is the PNA. We've been stuck in the negative PNA for a long time. Throughout the entire month of December, which is right here, we've been stuck in this negative PNA, and look what's going to happen here. We're actually expected to go positive PNA. It's not very strong, but it's a slightly positive PNA, so that's going to help has a ridging across the western U.S., which does increase your probabilities for colder and snowy conditions for the eastern U.S. So there is one good thing there out of everything that's going on right now. Another thing I want to check out is the MGO, and you have to pay attention to these yellow lines here. This is your forecast lines. Currently, we're on the edge of number 7 and 8. And 7, which if we do check out 7, in phase 7, we do have some ridging across the eastern U.S. And there's troughing across the northern and parts of the western U.S. So it kind of makes sense. It really does. We've been seeing that type of pattern for a while. Don't pay attention to these other phases up here, though. We're not too worried about those. Just pay attention to 7 and 8. Which, check out phase 8. We turn colder in the eastern U.S. And if we go back to the model here, there is some indication we could go back maybe to the phase 8 side later on in the future. If that does happen, that could bring in a pretty good push of colder air for parts of the central and east U.S. We'll have to keep an eye on the MGO very closely. Now, it's not terribly strong. We're closer to the center, so it's not terribly strong or anything like that, but it is something pretty interesting, though. So that also kind of increases your odds for colder air, especially up in the parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest. There's pretty good confidence there's going to be cold air up there. You got that positive PNA. The AO does match up a little bit as well. And then you also got the MGO. So it does seem like there's going to be good confidence that parts of the Midwest, northern plains, maybe in the parts of the Great Lakes, could see a pretty cold pattern for the month of January. Which, let's check out some models, and they do show that very similar scenario. And there is one good thing from the Kansas model. What it shows is some ridging over the northern Pacific. So at this point in time, you may not see much of any cold air over the northern Pacific, which will be good news. Hopefully that'll warm up sea surface temperatures of what we got going on out there right now. If so, that could increase odds for a colder pattern for the eastern U.S. maybe getting into February. We'll see how the month of January goes with those sea surface temperatures. But you also do notice here there is some ridging across parts of the south and southeast there. I think there's still going to be that southeast ridge in place. But there is going to be some troughing across the north as well, which if we do check out temperature anomalies, check this out. With that ridge out there, it's going to keep that colder air a little bit more focused inland as well. And you do notice here with that ridge across parts of the south and southeast, it's going to keep things a little bit warmer down there. But you also do notice there is this big pocket of colder air across parts of the Midwest and the plains as well, which does set the stage for a pretty good pattern for parts of the eastern U.S. You don't necessarily need colder than normal conditions to get a winter storm setup in parts of the Ohio Valley Northeast here, which in this case here from the Kansas ball, we'll just say it's closer to average with temperature. So it's not a terrible pattern or anything like that, which if you do check out precipitation anomalies, there is above normal anomalies. And that is a good sign that we could see probably an active winter pattern across parts really anywhere from maybe as far south as the Tennessee Valley, which we've already seen a winter storm down there, which Huntsville, Alabama did get 6 inches of snow. And I think this pattern similar to that could continue here throughout at least most of January. I don't think it'll be very continuous. There'll probably be some ups and downs here and there, but at least compared to average, it looks like there could be an active pattern for the eastern U.S. If you do check out the CFS model here, very similar to the Kansas model with the 500 millibar height anomalies. And if you check out temperatures, it's actually a little bit colder. You got colder air that kind of rushes into the plains and parts of the Midwest as well. And this does set the stage for a pretty active pattern for parts of the eastern U.S. You actually have cold air in place. You do have a little bit of a southeast ridge, so you do get some moisture involved as well. So this will set the stage for some pretty decent winter storms, which we do have one in the forecast later this week here for parts of the Ohio Valley in the Northeast as well. Later this week, at least the time I'm making this video. Anyway, you check out the precipitation anomalies. You can see there, pretty similar with that. It's also a little bit wetter across the Northwest as well into parts of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado. It will likely be staying on the drier side across the desert Southwest. I think we're going to back things off with the little bit more active pattern, especially when we have that positive P&A potential as well. That's going to keep things a little bit more quieter in parts of the western U.S. It'll also be drier across the Southern Plains and even down to parts of Florida as well. And here's by a weekly look here from the CFS model. And you do see here, when you get to days 8 through 14, it's got a big ridge across the western U.S. And this does set the stage for colder than normal conditions in the eastern U.S. and possibly for some more snow chances. That does back off a little bit when you get into mid to late January. Now, this could change here. Keep in mind that. Unfortunately, at this point here, the NEO, it's kind of working against you. So there will be some ridging across parts of the southern and maybe for parts of the eastern U.S. But there is still some troughing out there across parts of the northern U.S. as well at the same time. And then again to late January, things like the troughing does back off a little further to the west. But then again, that can change as well. If you check out the Gfs Ensembles here, you can see here, as we kind of continue to play this through here, looks like it to pretty much throughout early January, there will be some troughing across the western U.S., but as we get deeper to mid-January, you do see some ridging building up across parts of the western U.S. It's actually a little further to the east, and that might help push the colder air a little bit further to the east as well, which also shows a pretty big trough across the northeast at the same time as well, which that'll be interesting to watch as well. But overall, shows a pretty active pattern, and check that out for getting into mid to late January. There is some potential for some troughing across the eastern U.S., which also has a lot of ridging going on off the west coast and up in Alaska. So it'd be an interesting pattern to see here, but it does seem like the odds do favor a little bit of a maybe for a colder, snowy pattern for parts of the central and eastern U.S. for the month of January. It does favor that potential. All right, let's check out the Climate Prediction Center Outlook here, and also have to agree with this forecast here. I think they're a little bit too cool for the western U.S. I think it'd be slightly milder. I think temperatures will be closer to average across the northwest, but I do agree on the placement where they have the better opportunity for below average temperatures. I think that's a pretty good placement here. Generally, I do agree with the eastern U.S. and the central U.S. I think the western U.S. could be a little bit more milder. And then you got the precipitation outlook. Honestly, I don't see a whole lot of potential for a lot of precipitation up across parts of Wisconsin and Michigan. I just don't think we're going to see a whole lot of systems out there. I think there will be a couple systems here and there, and it may just bring minor events. They might have done it just because of lake effect snow potential, which I do expect lake effect snow to probably slightly above normal for the month of January, especially where they're much milder as well compared to average. But I don't think it'd be above normal up there. But I do agree on at least parts of the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley to be above normal. And I do agree on the placement of the drier air potential as well. Alright, so let's check out my forecast here. So this is for the temperature outlook. I do have the bullseye for below average temperatures, mainly focused in the upper Midwest. I could have expected further to the west, but I think I'm a little bit more confident with the placement of where it is. And that does include places like parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, and even for parts of the Dakotas as well. And then you got this area here, so like below average temperatures that goes from the northern plains down as far south as parts of the Midwest, parts of the Ohio Valley, in the interior Northeast. I do believe there will be some ridging across parts of the south and the southeast, so that could lead to some slightly above normal temperatures, especially down to parts of Florida, Texas, and New Mexico. I think that's where we're going to expect to see above normal temperatures. In between, close, pretty much around your average temperatures. And then across the northwest, there will be some ups and downs, and I think it's going to turn out to be closer to average across the northwest as well. So not a bad pattern there for temperature-wise. If we do check out precipitation, I do expect parts of the northwest and the high points to be slightly above average. With precipitation, I think it would be closer to average with precipitation across the Midwest, Northern Plains, Central Plains, and the Great Lakes region as well. Even across parts of the western U.S., like parts of Oregon, Idaho, California, Nevada, could be closer to average with precipitation. And I think the areas that have the better potential for slightly below average precipitation will be across parts of the desert Southwest, portions of the Four Corners states, the Southern Plains, and probably when you get down to parts of Florida as well, especially when you get to far southern Texas and southern Florida. I think that's where we're going to expect below average precipitation down there as well. And then you got this bullseye here of slightly above average precipitation, really anywhere from the Tennessee Valley vicinity all the way up into the parts of the northeastern U.S. as well. I think it'd be a pretty good pattern for some of those folks there as well. I think we could certainly see some slightly above average precipitation there. Now, I don't think it'd be ridiculously active. If it were to be ridiculously active, there probably been an upgrade area of above normal, but I think it'd be a safe bet. Probably just put slightly above average there for now. But that's precipitation for you. Let's check out snowfall. Now, this is going to be weird, and we'll talk about the Mid-Atlantic in a little bit. But starting off the west, I think the northwest would be closer to average. Now, getting down to parts of Montana, Wyoming, even with that positive P&A going to be in place here, I think we can still see some clip persistence move from Alberta and Saskatchewan. Those will be moving through some of the same areas, so bring in some snow with it as well. So I think we could turn out to see some slightly above average precipitation in those regions as well. I meant snowfall. Apologies. Slightly below average snowfall. I don't know why I keep on saying precipitation. Snowfall going to be slightly below average, really anywhere from parts of southern California, Nevada, the southern half of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, down to the southern plains, and even for parts of the south as well. Could see slightly below average snowfall. Average across the Midwest, I think the Great Lakes are going to be a little bit more active for the month of January. So there's going to be slightly above average lake effect snow potential out there as well. And there could be some slightly above average snowfall across parts of the Northeast as well. Okay, let's talk about this above average region. Technically speaking, the winter storm we experienced yesterday does add up the totals for January. And I know we're doing this a day after, can't do it before because of the current active weather that we had. But technically, those amounts from the winter storm do count to the January monthly total. So you do see this big area of above normal snowfall. If you remember, I said earlier in the video, Huntsville, Alabama got to see 6 inches of snow, which technically they're above normal snowfall already. You know, it doesn't take much snow to get you guys slightly above normal or above normal snowfall. And across parts of Virginia, Maryland, and especially Delaware, you guys have seen double-digit snowfall totals, which brings you guys probably closer to the above average mark. I do not exactly know what your average snowfall is, but you guys did get to see a lot of snow either way. So it does bring your average totals pretty close to the above average mark. And I still think we could see some more snow in some of these areas, especially across parts of the Ohio Valley up to parts of the Northeast. I think we could see more snow chances, especially what's coming up on Thursday and Friday, which could help increase some of these snowfall totals in some of these regions as well. So I got that out of the way. I know it looks a little weird, but technically speaking, it does bring you guys up to the above average mark out there as well. Okay, let's talk about the overall forecast. We'll go from west to east. So for the northwestern U.S., I think it's going to be generally a flip-flop pattern. There'll be some colder and stormier periods, and then when the positive P&A starts to kick in a little bit, things will turn warmer and drier as well. So it's going to be a flip-flop. Parts of California and Nevada, I think we're generally going to be drier. I think temperatures will be closer to average there. And then as you go further to the east, the Four Corner States, down to the Southern Plains, down to the Florida, it's generally going to be milder and drier. I'm not expecting a whole lot of activity down there precipitation-wise, but temperature-wise, there's going to be some ridging down there as well for some of those regions, especially when that positive P&A kicks in. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit milder down there as well. Then you got this light blue region from Montana all the way down to through parts of the Central Plains, down into parts of Missouri. There's going to be some cold shots in some of these regions, and there will be some clipper systems come along with it as well. So there will be some snow chances for those regions down there as well. Even with the positive P&A pattern, you can still see a clipper systems through down those areas as well. So just to keep in mind of that. So, and then you got that dark purple area. There's going to be some Arctic cold up there, certainly. Uh, and there will be some minor snowfall events to be mixed in as well. At least probably enough to get you guys up to average with snowfall. And what I mean by some minor snowfall events, there may be a low pressure system that may roll by that could bring in light, maybe moderate snowfall at times. So there will be some minor snowfall events down in those regions as well. And then further to the east here, active lake effect snow. That's what that stands for, lake effect snow. That goes for pretty much everybody that lives by the Great Lakes that typically see lake effect snow. I think it'd be a little bit more active for the month of January, especially if that northwest wind can really kick it in. That'll also help as well. Then you got this white region in here. I think it'll be closer to average, in my opinion. Just your typical uh, month precipitation temperatures, I think, could be closer to average. So it's just your typical January overall. Then you got this green area down here. While there will be some stormy periods as well. So there will be, you guys will be able to get some rain. I know the Carolinas do need some rain. So this will be a pretty good pattern for you guys to at least get some rain chances, which we have already seen some stormy conditions along with some severe weather. There will probably be some strong severe storm chances for some of these regions as well during the month of January as well. Then you got that pink area for up to the north, northern New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern Maine. It's going to be very cold. There will be some snowfall events up there as well. And then last but not least, you got this blue area from the lower Ohio Valley region through parts of the northeast. It'll be generally be cold and snowy. There will be some warm ups here and there, but I think generally it's going to be cold and a little bit snowy as well. Some of these areas has already experienced a winter storm. So you kind of get that off. But another one cannot be ruled out in some of those regions as well. So we also have to pay attention to that potential as well. So yeah, a winter storm is certainly possible for those areas in the blue as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this January forecast. If you guys like this forecast, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.